What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today I'm going to be doing a Master Duel Exosister deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an amazing deck to play on Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel because of how easily it makes XZ plays, which is insane. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like in your name description every single video, getting get signed cards in the mail, and even getting you to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Exosister Martha. This card is the best card in the entire deck because it's a 1-card XZ summon. And if you control no monsters or you only control XZ monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, special summon 1 Exosister Elise from your deck, which is such a cool ability about this card that it just gets you 2 level 4 monsters out on your side of the field so you can go in for an XZ play. This card also has a super unique ability that if a card is moved out of either player's graveyard except during the damage step, then you can special summon this card or special summon from your X deck 1 Exosister XZ monster using this face-up card that you control as a material, which is insane that this card can turn into an XZ monster if either player moves a card out of the graveyard. We then play 3 copies of Exosister Elise. Elise is definitely a 3-of to work with your copy of Martha, but this card has a really cool ability. If you control an Exosister monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then if you control a copy of Stella, you gain 800 life points, which is great to be able to do. This card also has a common effect among all your other Exosister monsters that if your opponent moves a card out of either player's graveyard except during the damage step, you can special summon from your X deck 1 Exosister XZ monster using this face-up card you control as a material, and it is treated as an XZ summon, which is super cool for this card to be able to do. Where this card and all of your other Exosister monsters are different for your copy of Martha is all the rest of your Exosister monsters require your opponent to move a card out of the graveyard, where Martha makes it so either player can move a card out of the graveyard for her to be able to turn into an XZ monster. We then play 2 copies of Exosister Stella. Stella is really good as a 2-of in the deck because during your main phase, you can special summon 1 Exosister monster from your hand. Then if you control a copy of Elise, you gain 800 life points. We then play just a single copy of Sophia. Sophia is just a good 1-of in this build because of all the other tech cards I'm playing. As if you control another Exosister monster, you can draw a card. Then if you control a copy of Irene, you gain 800 life points. We then play just a single copy of Irene. Irene's good as a 1-of, but you really only need a single copy of Irene in the build. But this card is pretty good in the deck because it lets you place an Exosister card from your hand on the bottom of the deck and then draw a card. And if you control a copy of Sophia, you gain 800 life points. We then play 3 copies of Aratama. Aratama is great in the deck as a 3-of, and this card is probably the best normal summon in the entire deck because this card has the ability that when this card is normal summon or flip face up, you can add a spirit monster from your deck to your hand, which is always going to be your copy of Sakitama that you're searching from your deck to your hand off your copy of Aratama, which just normal summoning out your copy of Aratama is basically full combo for the deck because your copy of Sakitama has the ability you can reveal this card in your hand to immediately this effect resolves. You get to normal summon a spirit monster from your hand, basically getting you 2 level 4s on your side of the field by normal summoning out your copy of Aratama. Aratama and your copy of Martha are probably the most powerful cards in the entire build to get you into XZ plays. We then play 2 copies of Shifter. We don't really need the graveyard that much in this build, and it's really good to be able to make your opponent basically just not be able to use the graveyard. And sometimes when you drop this card, you instantly win the game. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's definitely a 3-of in the deck just to stop your opponent from touching the deck. We then play 3 copies of Maxi. Maxi is insane that this card is still at 3 in Master Duel, and this card basically has the ability that every time your opponent special summons, you're going to draw a card during that turn, which is just crazy, making this card a definite 3-of in the build. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. Harpy's Feather Duster is definitely a 1-of in the build just to deal with back row. We then play a single copy of Pot of Prosperity. Pot of Prosperity is currently at 1 in Master Duel, making it just a really good 1-of for consistency in this deck. We then play a single copy of Triple Tactics Thrust. Thrust is great in this deck, so we play a lot of different targets that we can use with Thrust in this build to be able to get to like our copies of Feather Duster or your copy of Talents. Talents is great to to be able to get to with your copy of Thrust, because this card either lets you draw 2, take control of an opponent's monster, or look at your opponent's hand and choose 1 card from it and shuffle it into the deck, which is such a cool ability about your copies of Talents. This card is so good in the deck, but you only need a single copy of Thrust and Talents in the deck, because your copy of basically Thrust is the second copy of Talents, but it can do more because it can grab different cards in different situations, which is why we just play one of each in the deck. We then play a single copy of Crossout Designator. We do play a lot of hand traps in this build, so this card does come in handy in the deck to basically stop your opponent from hand trapping you. We then also play 2 copies of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is amazing in the deck as a 2-up, just to stop your opponent from hand trapping you while you're going in for all of your plays. Plus, it works really well with our copy of Crossout Designator, just to make sure you're not going to get hit by a hand trap. We then play 3 copies of Exosister Pax. Pax is definitely a 3-up in the deck, because this card is basically the Roto for the deck, but just a little bit better, because during the main phase, you can pay 800 life points to add an Exosister card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of Pax. Then, if you added a monster by this effect, you can special summon it, and if the other Exosister monster mentioned on it is on your field or in the graveyard, which is such a cool ability about this card is just a better Roto for the deck. So, that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing a single copy of Vadis. Vadis is really good as a 1-of in the deck, and it has the ability that you get to pay 800 life points to choose an Exosister monster from your deck. Then you take one other Exosister monster from your deck that is mentioned on that monster and special summon both, but shuffle them into the deck during the end phase. Also, for the rest of the turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Exosister monsters, which is totally fine because it's going to get you 2 monsters out on your side of the field, which is amazing. We then play 2 copies of Returnia. Returnia is definitely a 2-of build, and this card is just absolutely crazy because it has the ability, if all monsters you control are Exosister monsters, minimum 1, you can pay 800 life points and then target 1 card your opponent controls or in the graveyard and banish it. Then you can apply one of the following effects. To immediately this effect resolves, Exi summon 1 Exosister Exi monster using monster control, or if you Exi summon this turn, banish 1 card your opponent controls, which is great to be able to just spot remove something else off the field. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence is definitely a 3-of in the deck, just to basically stop your opponent's monster effects, and it works really well with all the other hand traps we're playing in the build. And the reason why this deck is so good is because you have so much room for hand traps in the build just to stop your opponent in their tracks. And this card is great to stop your opponent's monster effects while also locking down entire columns of spells and traps if you set it to your side of the field first. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with Exosister Magnifica. I feel like 2 copies of Magnifica is really all you need in the deck, and this card is super easy to summon, and it's our main boss monster we're summoning all the time. It takes 2 rank 4 Exosister XZ monsters to make this card, and it must be XZ summoned with the above materials. And it also has the ability this card can make a second attack during each battle phase, which is really cool to be able to do that. It's basically 2 monsters in 1. It also has the ability once per turn, quick effects, you can detach a material in this card to banish 1 card your opponent controls, and it doesn't even target, which is so cool. And it can also tag itself out, which is such a cool ability to be able to just tag itself out for a different XZ monster, which is amazing. We then play 3 copies of Makalis. Makalis is such a good 3-of in the deck. This card cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster special summon from the graveyard, and you only use the following effects this card once per turn, that if you control this card that was XZ summoned this turn by using an Exosister monster as a material, then quick effect, you can target 1 card your opponent controls or in the graveyard and banish it. And you can also detach a material in this card and then add an Exosister spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which is an amazing effect. We then play 2 copies of Caspatel. Caspatel is really good as a 2-of in the deck. This card has the ability you can detach a material from this card to add an Exosister monster from your deck to your hand, which is great to be able to do to get the exact Exosister monster that you need to your hand. This card also cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster special summon from the graveyard, which is a really cool ability. And if this card is XZ summoned using an Exosister monster as material, neither player can special summon monsters from the graveyard for the rest of the turn, which is great to be able to lock down the graveyard. We then play a single copy of Asophiel. Asophiel is really good as a 1-up, but you only need a single copy in this build. If this card is XZ summon using an Exosister monster as a material, neither player can activate cards or effects in the graveyard this turn, basically being like Abyss Dweller, which is really good. You can also detach a material from this card and target one monster opponent controls and return it back to the hand, which is also a bounce, which is just insane. We then play a single copy of Gabrine. Gabrine is great because this card boosts your monster up by 800 attack points, which is really good because it boosts all of your different XZ monsters that you control by 800 attack, which is really good to OTK your opponent. We then play a single copy of Zeus. Zeus is just really good as a board wipe in the deck, which is why we play this card as a 1-up. Play a single copy of Exciton Knight because Exciton Knight is also a board wipe and it's really good in the deck. One copy of Baguska. Baguska is great because just in case you need to throw this card into defense position and basically slow the game down, you can. Play a single copy of Access Code because we can climb into it very easily in this deck to OTK. Plus it comes out absolutely massive. Then play a single copy of Selene. Selene's really good to help us climb into our copy of Access Code. Plus we'll play basically a bunch of spellcasters, meaning it's super easy to be able to step into your copy of Selene and then step into Access Code. And then finally play a single copy of the Light Charmer because this card is just really good in the deck, especially if our opponent basically drops an Effect Veiler. We can bring it back to our side of the field, step into a copy of Selene, then step into Access Code, get multiple pops, and it comes out absolutely massive. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Exosister before in Master Duel, you definitely should because this deck is amazing. It's really fun to be able to play, and I absolutely love playing Exosister because it's so easy to make XZ summons. So that's going to do for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification, become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.